What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're breaking down the community's thoughts ahead of Game Week 33. I've put a Google form on Twitter. I asked people to fill it in and basically give us their opinion on a bunch of different decisions this week, so you can get an idea of what loads of different FPL managers are thinking about. I think we got about 800 replies in total for this one. So if you enjoyed it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you are new around here as well. So the first one was simply Weghorst: should owners keep or sell? Now, obviously, you have to take in mind or keep in mind that when people fill this in, they're not necessarily Weghorst owners as well. And I think sometimes in FPL, it's much easier to say what you would do when you don't have to make the decision. So it's very easy as a non-owner to just say, of course, you sell him, he's rubbish. But those of us that are sat here with him are probably thinking, well, he's got a double game week. Do I really want to sell him on? What if it's for a hit? You probably don't want to do it. So the community is very split over this. Keep just about one out. And as I said on yesterday's video, I am more leaning towards keeping him unless Sean Dyche says something, or unless there's a bunch of Burnley predictions where he is not in the lineup. I think that he probably will start. I think West Ham at the moment still competing in Europe. Southampton not playing too well. The one kind of reason I want to keep him is I don't think there's a huge amount of other, much better options where a free transfer is worthwhile using. But also, if he does play and he happens to get something, even a goal, even an assist, just plays well and gets nothing, then that would mean you don't necessarily have to use a transfer on him moving forward. And the fixtures aren't that bad for Burnley. So yeah, I think I'm sticking with the community here. The majority just about on keep. But lots of people think you should sell. Let me know down below if you are keeping him, or if you own him, I should say, what are you thinking of doing with him? So after reading the comments on my free hit video on Monday, apparently having Man United players in a free hit team is very controversial, was being called a deluded Man United fan and all this stuff. So I wanted to see what the community thought. Now, a lot of people aren't free hitting, so if you're on the fence and you're worried that loads of people are going to activate the chip this week, it doesn't look very likely. But for those that are free hitting, I put down you're going to have 0 Man United players, 1, 2 or 3. The majority or the bigger majority here was on 2. So I guess that's a lot of Fernandes and Ronaldo, probably. Maybe Fernandes and a defender as well, possibly Telles because he looks pretty nailed. There are quite a few people having 3, which I like the look of because I do think that's a good idea this week. And then some people having 1. So there's a few with 0, but not many. And I think that's right. I think what people forget is this is a free hit. The clue is in the name, okay? You don't have to keep these players long term. Half the reason we use free hits in certain weeks is to get players that we can or don't want otherwise, but are good for that week. I think it's very easy to just look at, again, I've said this the last few weeks on different players and teams. It's very easy just to back the recent result and say, well, Son's just scored a hat-trick. Man United have just done really bad against Everton. Therefore, you should have Son and Kane over Ronaldo and Fernandes. But on a free hit, it's almost like buying a ticket to the lottery. I think you shouldn't go for bad players for the sake of it. But if I was to give you some money and I say you can bet on one of 2 events, that Norwich win and Man United don't score, or that Man United win and they score at least 2 goals, which one would you back? I think the majority of you deep down would back Man United, right? Because they are the better team. I know they played really poorly against Everton, but that's just one result. And I think recent matches, like if we look at them, that they've not been great results at all. And you could argue that Man United have got nothing to play for now, but top 4 is still on. The players aren't going to completely give up, even though it looked like that at the weekend. So Spurs scored 3 goals. Arguably Spurs were the better team, but still put three goals in. Man City, I don't think anyone thought they were going to win that anyway. Watford should have been goals if you watched that. There was 4 goals against Leeds, 2 against Brighton, only 1 against Southampton. Probably could have scored another one in that. And there has been some results that have just not been great. Like only 1 goal against West Ham, 1 goal against Burnley, but then there was 3 against Brentford, 2 against Villa. And we're going back quite far now. But I think to kind of write Man United off as if Norwich at home is now this really tricky fixture, I just don't think is right. And I know what people are saying, well, the Liverpool game doesn't count because they're going to lose that game. But I think you look at it as a couple of extra points, appearance points, and then maybe, if you get lucky, an assist or a random goal, even without bonus points, that would be ideal to add to the Norwich thing. So I'm not sitting here, as some people said in the comments, like a deluded Man United fan. I'm not saying you should triple up on Man United. I don't think I've had triple Man United all season. I don't think so, at least. I might have. Don't hold me to that. And I might only bring in one this week. I'm certainly not saying that people should use transfers to get 2 or 3. But if I was on a free hit, I'd have at least 2. The only thing that would maybe make me not go for 3 is if I thought Ronaldo, for example, wasn't going to start both games, which I think he probably will. But if you were really unsure about that, then sure, you maybe put Kane or Son or Salah or De Bruyne in your team instead. But I think if you're on a free hit, the clue is in the name. It is a free hit. Norwich at home is about as good as it gets. Then you hope they get something from Liverpool and hope obviously you don't get too kind of screwed over by single game week players going absolutely nuts. I think that's the key. I think people are fearful that single game week players will go on to have that 15-20 point week, whereas in reality that probably won't happen, and I would just back on the 2 fixtures for me. And then obviously next week it doesn't matter, you won't have those Man United players in your team. So this question comes up every time there's a double game week. How many double game week players do I actually need? And the easy answer is, of course, always it's quality over quantity. But I know people are interested, so I put this out to the community. The large majority have got between 5 to 6, or basically between 5 and 8, which kind of makes sense because that's pretty much what I've got in my own team as well. And I would say people have got similar squads, not exactly the same, but very similar. I can't imagine people are really going in with 1 to 2. I think 3 to 4 is quite low as well. I guess the only thing is, like, if you think about the teams that are doubling, like Newcastle, Arsenal, Leicester, Man United, a lot of those teams you don't necessarily need a bunch of players from for the long term. Like Newcastle's fixture in game week 34 is good, but then they're pretty poor. Man United, again, you probably won't want 3 or even 2 to 3 of their players going forward either. And Leicester are probably the only one that you will, but obviously everyone's a little bit worried about rotation. So 3 to 4 feels a little bit low, and obviously 9 to 10 or 11 people could be on free hit, or they could just have a team that's full of double game week players. Like I look at my team, and if we're talking about quality, I mean Weghorst is debatable whether that's a really good double game week player. I think the same with Breuer as well. So realistically, I've only got Lacazette, who hasn't scored since December from open play. Saka and obviously Arsenal aren't looking fantastic, and Dubravka, who's in goal, who, to be honest, I'm pretty happy with. I'm a little bit annoyed that Tierney went and got injured because he would have been a sixth double game week player. But right now I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I've got 2 free transfers, so I probably will bring in a Leicester midfielder, and we'll talk about them a little bit more. That brings me up to 6, and then it's whether or not I want to get a Newcastle defender in or a Man City defender, which I spoke about yesterday. So I think the max for me that I will go for is probably 7. I don't see me using any more transfers. I might go for Fernandes as well, or maybe instead of one of those other players. So I think the maximum for me will be 8, so I fit right into that 5 to 8 bracket. I think you probably don't need to worry too much more than that, because if you've got 11... Again, it's what I said just a minute ago. If you've got like 2 Man United, 3 Newcastle, those players are only going to last you so long for the latter stage of the season, the final part of the season. I think if you are going all in and dead ending and wild card out of it in game week 34, that is a good strategy. But I think most people, once they start getting to kind of 10 to 11 double game weekers, I would question how good that team will be for the rest of the season. So do not panic if you've got between 5 to 8. You're like everyone else by the looks of things. Not even sure where to start with this. Game week 33 captain is very, very spread. The 2 most popular captains right now as it stands. Now, this was the opinions were taken on Tuesday, so I got people to fill in the survey on Tuesday. I'm also recording on Tuesday as well, and it's going out on Wednesday. So opinions might change by the time we get to the deadline on Saturday, especially if a player gets injured in Europe or something like that, or doesn't play, or does play 90 minutes, i.e. Maddison. But right now, Fernandes and Maddison are the 2 favourites, right? So Man United, again, they've got that Norwich at home fixture. I can see why people are going there. Fernandes is probably where I would go if I could choose from anyone. I don't think it's likely that Ronaldo misses either of the 2 games because Cavani's out, and I don't think he's going to be back for either of those 2. But they could play, if they wanted to, Fernandes as a number 9 against Liverpool. I don't think that's likely to happen against Norwich, but it could happen against Liverpool. But then is Rangnick really going to leave Ronaldo out against Liverpool? It's like such a big game. I'm not so sure, but I think for safety, I would probably go Fernandes as well. With Maddison, I'd be a little bit worried. It's hard to say right now because we haven't seen the Leicester lineup for Europe. We haven't seen how many minutes players have played. And obviously, if they go like 2 or 3-0 up, they might rest players a bit sooner than normal. But I just think when you look at the fixtures, So Leicester got Newcastle away the first game. So they play on Thursday night and then they're playing Sunday afternoon. And then they got to play again against Everton. Now, Maddison has played the last few games. And look, you can look at it two ways. I'm thinking about bringing Maddison in, by the way. But you can look at it two ways and think, well, he's definitely first choice right now, which most of the time he is anyway. He's just going to keep getting played and played. Or you could say, well, he needs a bit of a break. When's it going to happen? Probably not in Europe. Probably in one of those two games. So I would question Maddison. I think if he starts both games, he's a pretty good captain. But I would have my doubts over whether that happens. I mean, elsewhere, it is very, very kind of evenly split. There's quite a few people liking the single game week, so Kane, Son and Salah. There's also a few people on someone else. I'm not quite sure who that might be. Possibly Kevin De Bruyne as a single game week option. I don't know if there's many other double game week players that I've not listed here that people will be going for. The only thing to say is for any team that's playing in the FA Cup, so that's City, Liverpool, Chelsea as well. I don't think people are going to be looking at Chelsea for captain, but they play their FA Cup game before they play their Premier League game. So if you got really unlucky and you captained Salah and you had a bad vice captain, Salah plays in the FA Cup then gets injured, you won't be able to do anything about that before the game week 33 fixture. Not trying to put anyone off. I'm sure there won't be any issues, but they are playing Man City, so they are probably going to play a pretty full strength 11 and then do the same against Man United. So just in case there's an injury or something, you might want to go for a team without that FA Cup headache. So if you want to go for a single game, we can maybe, just maybe, Kane or Son are slightly better options. I personally will be going for a double game week captain. Right now it's on Saka. I could be persuaded by Maddison, but I think I'd rather just go with Saka, who I expect to play both games. I know one of them's against Chelsea, which is a bit difficult, but a game against Southampton is pretty decent. And the other one on there is Barnes. Now, I think for what it's worth, I probably think that Maddison is the better option if they're both going to play the same minutes. But I think we're underestimating how many minutes Barnes might play going forward. I think the fact that he just had a rest at the weekend means he probably plays Europe, and then he does have a good chance to play both those games in the double game week. But I think what the reason this is looking like it is because people are thinking about who they're going to bring in, and whether or not you think that Maddison might play more minutes in this double game week. I think from now until the end of the season, people are looking at Maddison over Barnes, especially with kind of recent returns as well. The other one in there is Chris Wood, very boring captain, I guess, but I think 2 home fixtures with the penalties is pretty decent. So I don't know what order I would put these in. I think I would have the single game weekers below pretty much all the double game weekers. So Fernandes would probably be top for me just for minutes. If you think Ronaldo plays both games, he might just about pip him. And then I would be between Saka and Chris Wood. And I think with the 2 home games and penalties, I'd maybe, and because Saka's got to play Chelsea, I'd probably put Wood there and then Saka. And only then would I be looking at Maddison, because I would be worried about a start in one of those games. I think, yes, the single game weekers have got good fixtures. Salah against Man United is decent. Kane, Son is decent as well. But with only one fixture, I just always back the 2 and just hope that it pays off. One thing for sure, though, if you nail the right captain, there's going to be more big swings this week. So if you're at not a low rank, but you're not quite where you want to be, I just think with the way the rest of the season is going to fall with double game weeks and stuff, there's going to be so many potential points and swings, I wouldn't be panicking too much just yet. You nail the right captain when everyone is so split, that could be huge. So for this question, I worded it as Matt Doherty replacements, because a lot of people are going to be looking at getting rid of him, but obviously this could be any defender replacement that you're making this week. What's worth saying is people hadn't seen my video yesterday before they filled this in. So this survey went out before yesterday's video went live. So I was pretty up on either going Newcastle to hit that double game week or going for Man City defenders because they got Brighton at home, then a really good rest of the season running. And people are kind of agreed, right? Newcastle, Cancelo and Laporte are all quite fairly high up. I think the Newcastle defenders in particular, because they got the 2 games this week, they're Norwich, and they are very cheap. They are decent enablers. There's not too many other players that are popular. So for some players, obviously Gabriel White, I just put Arsenal. I've got Spurs there and Chelsea. Personally, I don't think I would swap Doherty to another Spurs defender, because if I was going cheap, like Eric Dyer or someone like that, well, I'd probably just go for the Newcastle defender instead, get that double game week this week, and probably have him on the bench most weeks anyway. Reguilon, Sessegnon's back now, so you don't even know if he's going to play every game. And Emerson Royale is just not as good, I don't think, as Matt Doherty. So I probably wouldn't go for a Spurs defender myself. With Chelsea, again, I'm recording this before they play Champions League. If they go out of the Champions League, there is a chance they will double in game week 34. But either way, I think you can wait to bring them in. I don't think they then become a priority for this week, because I don't think the fixture is that great. And I'd also worry about kind of Reece James starting. He's probably the one you want over Rudiger. So if they go out, I don't want to spend too much time on this because who knows what the result will be. But if they've gone out against Real Madrid by the time you're watching this, then I think Reece James from 34 onwards looks really good. But I probably wouldn't risk bringing him in this week. Elsewhere, Robertson's not really high up on people's list, probably because they're playing Man United. This is the funny thing. Everyone sees that Man United fixture as an obvious win. But I think Robertson, that people are just not necessarily quite sure about a clean sheet this week. Probably for the rest of the season, he'll be good. This week, I would maybe question it. And obviously, Cancelo and Laporte are a little bit cheaper. The only thing I couldn't quite work out, there's quite a few people saying someone else, but I don't really know who they're looking to bring in. I went on, transfers in this week. So obviously Newcastle, Man City at the top, and Arsenal as well, who were all included on the list. So only really Crystal Palace I could think of. Maybe a Leicester defender, possibly. Maybe I missed them out. Maybe I should have had them on the list. But I don't really know if, just because you don't know about the rotation, I just don't know if Leicester defenders are that good to bring in. I think I'd rather have Schmeichel. So this kind of tallies up with what I said yesterday. Again, people hadn't seen that before they filled this in. But Newcastle, extremely popular. I think there could be... I think Newcastle defenders will be so highly owned that if you've only got one, you'll basically be wishing that they lose the clean sheet, and actually doubling up might be a better strategy for this week, especially on the free hit. That's what I would do anyway. And obviously, Cancelo better than Laporte long term. But if you're going to get both long term, like for me, for example, I really want both going forward, but I can only afford Laporte this week. I think that's okay to get Laporte and then get Cancelo later. So yeah, lots of popular choices for Man City and Newcastle, not so much elsewhere. Just to go over it one last time, I asked people who was the best Leicester midfielder to bring in. James Maddison winning by quite a lot. I do wonder, right, if we'd done this like a few weeks ago, would opinions have changed? I'm just going to look up, because I've not looked at when Barnes last returned. So, yeah, he got an assist against Brentford in game week 30. He got a goal in game week 28, another assist in game week 27. So he has done okay, but I think the fact that Maddison not only is the top scorer, but he's got 3 returns in his last 3 games, obviously blanked against Arsenal. I mean, it's not like overall over the last kind of 10 game weeks that Maddison has done that much better, but I think because he's been regularly starting recently after not doing, because he did have that kind of injury issue and obviously was being rested around Europe and stuff like that, less so recently because he's probably built his fitness back up. So I do think people are slightly concerned over Barnes' minutes, but I think this bench in here in game week 32 was purely for Europe, and I think going forward they're going to have very similar minutes. The problem with that is, well, not the problem, but if you're thinking about going for Barnes, James Maddison's underlying numbers are actually better this year. So when I watch games, I always tend to think that Barnes looks a little bit more maybe exciting, more likely to get you a goal than Maddison, and Maddison's more there for assists. But the numbers tell me a different story, which tell me maybe my eyes are not telling me the whole truth. So his expected goals per 90 are slightly higher than Barnes, and then assist threat is just as good, if not better as well. So I do think Maddison is the better option. Actually, price-wise now, Maddison's 7 million and Barnes is 6.6. So we might get to a point where people just go for Barnes because he's a bit cheaper. But I do think ultimately the best option right now is Maddison. The last thing I will say on this, obviously, it's not optimal to buy a player that you think is worse, right? So if you think Maddison is the best option, obviously you should go for Maddison. But we are running out of weeks, right? And as we saw, for example, between Son and Kane, where it was pretty close, I always thought that Kane was maybe the slightly better option, ever so slightly, but Son has won out. That's been big differential points. So maybe if you've got a lot of, like a high rank to climb, or you want to get one over your mini league rivals who are going to go Maddison, you could choose Barnes, who... it's not like he's awful in comparison to Maddison. He's just not quite as good. But he's not so bad that it might be worth trying to take the risk just to get a bit of rank. You've got to be careful because you can do that so many times that your rank just continues to fall. But yeah, that was just one thing I thought of. But ultimately, if I was buying one of these this week, it'll probably be Maddison as well, to be honest. There we go. That is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. And obviously let me know your thoughts in the comments below about what you think of these different choices the community have made. Is there anything that you strongly disagree with? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be back tomorrow with my team selection video where I'm a little bit, not all over the place, but I've got a few different plans that I could go with. And I've got 2 free transfers to spend. So I can do a few different things and obviously then look ahead to kind of game week 34 onwards. So thank you very much for watching. Give it a like if you found it useful. Hit subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you again soon.